So I guess I'm first. I'm Larry. I'm here from the National Campaign in DC, and I'm going to talk today about bedsider.org, which is a birth control support network. But before I get started, I wanted to ask you all whether you saw, would you raise your hand if you saw the Super Bowl babies commercial? All right. So I had to laugh at that commercial because it made it seem like anybody in the winning city would go back and completely forget about, lose themselves to passion and completely forget about how to use birth control, right? Well, the sad part is it's actually true. It does happen, and that's what I'm here to tell you a little bit more about. The problem in the United States with unplanned pregnancy is severe. It's 7 in 10 pregnancies are unplanned among 18 to 29-year-olds in the United States. And that's the case even though most think pregnancy should be planned, and most say that they don't want to be pregnant right now. But for those who are not trying to get pregnant, still 19% are not using any form of birth control when they're having sex, and 24% use it inconsistently. So the intentions are not matching the behavior. And among those who say it's very important to them not to get pregnant right now, 34% of those people say it's at least likely that they'll have unprotected sex in the near future. And what we know about those people is that they do. And it's with that situation that the National Campaign in 2008 went to study why people weren't getting their birth control right. And so we started our research by looking at what was out there. And this is an example of it. And you have to, as you look at this material, you have to ask yourself, well, what does any of it have to do with sex? And the answer is really not much. It's not very pretty. And I always have to ask myself, why do the people with vaginitis look so happy? And this is a partner of ours. This is a site to help you find emergency contraception. But she looks like she's looking for car insurance. And the website's beige, certainly not the color of sex. And the truth is that sex isn't science, but the field keeps approaching it with this very squeaky clean, very desexualized logic. Sex is emotional, it's carnal, it's intense, it's fun, it's funny. And all of these approaches that we just saw were missing that. And millennials, the target audience, were ignoring it all. So we quickly realized that we needed to create solutions that matched the subject matter and adopted a tone that wouldn't be easy to dismiss. And we realized that our product really wasn't birth control, but it was better sex with birth control. So Bedsider was born to address these issues and other barriers that we thought digital media could address. And Bedsider's goals are 4. To take the fear and mystery out of birth control, because we heard a lot about that, to help women find a method that's right for them, to help them understand how to use it, and to gradually encourage them to consider more effective methods of birth control. This is what Bedsider looks like. This is the homepage, and it looks a lot different than anything that was out there at the time, and still truly. If you look at the bottom, the real stories, there's a way for you to find a method of birth control that works for you by listening to women who are like you. So you can select a method by identifying with a person rather than a medical object. But speaking of objects, we've got those too. Here's the Method Explorer, probably the most popular page on the website, because people did not know, still don't know, what their options are. There are 17 categories of methods. Most people have no clue what an IUD looks like or what an implant looks like. And there's a lot of anxiety about those methods because they go in you. So if you roll your mouse over these methods, there's some feedback that allows you to know how big they are. And they're all taken, those pictures, we took them ourselves, are all taken at scale. But Bedsider is definitely more than a website. It's all those things that you see on the screen. It's a system that's ready when people are ready and puts the focus on segments of the audience and their specific behavioral challenges. And there are a lot of those that we address in the rest of the program that I'll talk about a little bit here. This is one of them. People just don't know where to find their birth control. So this is a birth control finder. And it just gives people the information and a map so they know where to go. And they can even search for emergency contraception for a place that offers self-checkout. It was a characteristic we found that was very important in the community. This is a Frisky Friday to delight people and to shape their attitudes, and works on values affirmation. Small bits of information that gives people confidence in their abilities. So we find that when we talk about sex openly and honestly, like it's fun, and it's no big deal, everybody does it, which is true, that people, their anxiety level goes down, and they actually are able to accomplish their task of selecting a method of birth control and using that method much better. This is a widget that started here in California. You can use it to find out whether you qualify for free birth control. Now, with the Affordable Care Act, everybody should. But this was a response to a survey we did in California where about half the people who qualified for free birth control, any method, didn't know it. So this was a way for you to put in a zip code and answer two or three questions that were not personal at all and figure out if you qualified. Mobile reminders. Research shows that the top reason women miss their pill is that they left home without it. So now you can get mobile reminders like this one. 62% of drivers have flirted with someone in a different car. Hands on the wheel and take your pill. And now we're making an app, even with the SMS reminder, but we're making an app so that you can snooze very easily. So if you did leave your pill at home, you can snooze. And we won't let you snooze past the safe window where you should double up with a condom. The most recent message is 3 p.m. is apparently the best time of day to have sex. Women feel more aroused and alert in the afternoon. Good to know. So mobile reminders are really important. We send 1.2 million mobile message reminders a month now. And we're trying to get into places where reproductive health should be, but isn't. For family practices, for example, it's really rare for a family practitioner to ask a woman or a man about their reproductive health and about what method of birth control they're using. So we made this iPad app that does that. So you can sit in the waiting room and use that lost time to answer a few questions, express your interests, and talk about and get a report at the end that helps you discuss those methods, the top 3 that would be best for you. And we're working with an awesome family practitioner at the University of California in San Francisco on this, and it's being studied right now in the San Francisco area. And we're rolling it out in some other parts of the country. I mentioned real stories before. Here's another example of it. These are great because they model behaviors, and people can see how other men and women, and there are other men, you can see there's a guy there talking about the IUD on this page. They talk about the real issues too, the part about birth control that sucks, the side effects we don't want and how to overcome that, or how to select a different method if you need to. And then we've got fact or fiction, and I'm going to show you one and end with that. These are little myth busters, and these are real myths that we heard from people, real misunderstandings. Here's an example.
I always heard that a hot tub is actually the safest place to have sex without getting pregnant. With all the chlorine in the water, the sperm don't stand a chance.
So we ran that as a YouTube ad, and when we did it, we got 600,000 clicks, and here's the answer to that question.
So let me tell you, sperm are strong. And in a single ejaculation, there can be up to 500 million sperm. It only takes one to get in there and fertilize that egg. So having sex in a hot tub is just like having sex anywhere else. There is nothing special about the water or the chlorine or the heat or the bubbles that's gonna kill off these sperm. Mind you, if a guy ejaculates into the water in the hot tub and not into your vagina, you're not at risk. But other than that, sex is sex.
Thank you.
I have 2 kids, but I still learned something. So I'm with Truth. My name's Nicole Dorrler. I've been there for about 10 years now. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about tapping into #Team Internet. And let me step back. I'm going to ground you all. Most of you may know what Truth is. It's the longest running social marketing campaign around youth prevention for tobacco. But what you may not know is that 23% of teens smoked in the year 2000, and we're now down to 7%. We're almost there. Oh my God, yes. So, but the job gets harder and harder and harder because most youth now know that smoking causes cancer. But what they refuse to understand is that it can affect them now. That the long-term effects of smoking are just not on their radar. Like, I'll deal with that 20 years from now, I'll deal with that 40 years from now. You know, I can always quit, I'm only using a couple cigarettes, I'm only social smoking, I'm only using hookah. Well, it does affect them right now. And what you have to do is you have to tap into something they care about. And taking a page out of the last presenter's book, what do you tap into? You tap into hooking up, right? Because what we found was that there was a study that proved that you got twice as likely to be left swiped when you had yourself smoking in a profile picture. So if this is going to ruin your chances of meeting the opposite sex or the same sex, if that's your preference, then we got to tell people about this, shout from the mountains. So what does that look like, and how do you have a conversation around that? Well, the first thing you do is you enlist influencers. You enlist people from the internet, people from musicians, et cetera, and you create a music video, and you create a song, and you put it on Spotify, and you put it out into the world. And then let's see what that looks like.
Right swipe, right swipe. He's cuddling a kitten.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, left swipe.
This must be some kind of joke. If you think you're my type, and I'm my type. Proof you're gone in a cloud of smoke. I just left swipe.
Left swipe that.
Mr. World Traveler, your trips look expensive. Sitting on a mountaintop looking all pensive. I was about to ask, how's the air up there? But based on this pic, I guess you don't really care.
Lots of chicks in the pic, not sure which one's you. Them cigarettes are taking y'all from 10s to 2s. And one thing's true about your whole crew, none of you cigarella's gonna be my boo.
Smoking with a tiger.
Left swipe that.
While you're on a hang glider.
Left swipe that. Smoking with a duck face. Left swipe that.
At a monster truck race.
Left swipe that.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
You gotta swipe it
Left
left.
swipe that.
You gotta swipe it left.
Yeah.
Hashtag. Awesome.
And what happened? Well, the internet went apeshit. So for a topic that is absolutely of no interest, back in 2000, tobacco was a top 5 concern. Today, it's not even near the list. So I think the results stand for themselves. Within the first evening of airing this, truth was a worldwide trending topic above the Grammys twice. And it was also put into the Urban Dictionary. Left swipe, that is now in the Urban Dictionary, if you'd like to know. But I think more important than that is we had, within the first 10 minutes of airing it, we had over 10,000 posts on Twitter, and that people were engaging, having conversation about the behavior. And that's really what it's about. It's about raising the debate and getting people talking. So how do you enlist hashtag Team Internet? Well, they are the most important audience you can have, because these are individuals that have grown up online. They have failed in front of these people. They're part of their family. And I think nothing is scarier than a fangirl with time on her hands and a laptop. So I think what you got to understand is when you're tapping into an influencer, you're tapping into their character, their brand, their personality, what they've built for years. And their fan base is right there alongside of them, and they've watched them progress, and they feel like they've actually contributed to their success. So you can't get that wrong. Now, if you're like me, you may not have known who King Batch was, or you may have pronounced his name wrong. Or you may not know who Alpha Cat is, and that's okay. Get comfortable with that. It's important that your audience knows, right? And when we looked at Vanity article here, I think the thing that's great about it is half of the people on this list are online influencers. They're social influencers. They're beating people like Jennifer Lawrence, who just came out in Mockingjay. They're beating people like Katy Perry. And so it's okay, though, that you don't know them. But I think it's important that you get to know them. So again, if you've never heard their names, I'm okay with that. We're all okay with that. Grace Helbig, which is one of the people that was in the spot, now you probably know her name because she just took over for Chelsea Handler on E! Which is amazing. And she's doing amazing things with YouTube and with her channel. And she's created her own little empire, her own little brand. And so you know, these people may be nobodies to you today, but they will be somebodies in the future. And I would say that creative has been democratized because they're no longer just the talent. They're no longer just the co-creators, they're also the media channel. They've sort of thrown the whole model on its head. And so when you partner with them, you've got to understand that they're a force to be reckoned with. They have the media chops as well as the creative chops. And in this image, you'll see Meghan Trainor, who tapped into influencers, I think, in a really incredible way. She not only directed and created it and was a talent and was a casting agent, but doing her music video, she got way more engagement and became an overnight sensation. If the influencers aren't personally interested, you're toast. So this is Frankie Grande. When we did Left Swipe afterwards, we did something called Lip Sync That. And what we do that's really important is that we actually interview all these influencers to see why are they connected to this cause and how are they going to communicate about it. And Frankie not only did what was required of him from a contractual obligation, but he went well above and beyond. Even the other day I saw an article where he mentioned us again. Because he cares, he wants to be part of that. And so once you have them and you become friends with them and you tell them about why you're passionate about what you do every day, they get passionate. And it goes beyond that sort of, you know, celebrity brand relationship. I think the last and probably the most important lesson I can leave for you is don't be precious. For somebody like me who came from the brand world, who worked at an advertising agency for years, we're used to having very shiny objects with like well-produced creative that has a linear conversation. I mean, some of the things you see online, you're like, who watches this and why? But what you have to understand is that you have to relinquish your brand to these people in some ways. You still have to be true to your voice and your tone, but they're people that are used to failing really quickly. They iterate really quickly, and their audience is very forgiving. They allow for failure. And so they may not be the polished, produced piece that you're used to, but it's going to work for their audience because they've honed their talent. Each of these individuals has a passion point that you can tap into, and Roy talked about that earlier, how you can find, you know, gamers like Smosh or PewDiePie, or you can tap into people that's doing makeup like Bethany Moda. But there's also the up-and-comers. You don't have to go with the big names. And right now, when it comes to influencers, it's kind of like the Wild West. So everybody's trying to get a piece of the pie. So you have, you know, Twitter coming out with Niche, which is their influencer company. You have Fullscreen, you have Maker, you have little ones like Full Bottle. You even have, you know, companies that are trying to aggregate their own websites like Defy. So there's a lot of options for you, so it doesn't have to be a costly proposition. You can even go directly to the influencer and just contract with them. Probably the best idea to do anyway. So thank you guys for this, and if you have any questions, we'll talk about it in discussion.
So I love my job. I am a mustache farmer. I spend a majority of my time traveling around the great United States getting men and women to accept that mustaches are okay when promoted to a good cause. So here we are talking about behavioral change. And probably one of the most important things that we've learned over our 12 years in nonprofit space is that these men become walking, talking billboards for men's health, literally. If anyone's seen a 15-day-old mustache, mine is horrible, but someone is going to ask me a question, and I've had these questions in airports, at coffee shops, in restaurants, in bars, as to why I look terrible. It allows me an entry point to have a conversation with a man about why I do what I do every single day. And I think that's incredibly important to understand is long before viral became this social media buzzword, Movember was a viral grassroots campaign. It really got men to engage in a different way, and quite frankly, women to engage in men's health. So not many people know that there's a foundation, there's a nonprofit behind this that sits in the third sector. But to give you a little sense of who we are as an organization. So what is our vision? Our vision literally is to have an everlasting impact on the face of men's health. Yes, we use the Trojan horse of something fun like growing a mustache. Every man in this room who has grown a mustache or beard or otherwise always wants to know what they look like. And I think what we've done is we've engaged men in a very fun way to get them to talk about something very serious, which is men's health. In terms of the foundation's history and who we are, so like most things, we are founded, at least from most men, We were found in a bar in Melbourne, Australia back in 2003. Two guys were sitting around just having a chat about fashions and trends and asked the question, for those that are younger, the Gen Xers and millennials in the room, this is a question for maybe those that are a little bit older, probably not, is why the mustache has never made a comeback. My dad had a mustache up through the early 90s and he looked epic, turtlenecks and otherwise. And then all of a sudden it disappeared from his face and it never came back. And there was really a question around that. So they asked the question, why did that happen? And so they got 30 guys together that year to say, hey, let's just grow mustaches for the month of November, which we obviously retermed Movember. And what they found in that engagement, and by the way, there was no social cause. It was literally one of the guys had his birthday on the 30th of November and wanted to have a mustache party, was that the conversations they generated when they started growing mustaches, clean shaven from the first, was what was really powerful in what they found in that very simple idea of just having a mustache party. And what they did is they came back in 03 and into 04 and said, what's here? And what they found, and they had been doing work with the breast cancer awareness movement in Australia at the time, and found that women were having these conversations, men were not. Do a little bit of research, you find that prostate cancer, which is a main area of focus for us, is the second leading cause of cancer amongst men. And it's also tied very much to masculinity. If you ever have had a PSA and then a DRE for the men in the room, it's invasive. And the challenge with that is you can't engage men in those conversations because automatically they shut down because they're defined by the masculine approach that we take in the world, and then they automatically don't engage in their health. They don't take action. So what we've done in that time, and fast forward to where we are today, we're in 21 countries around the world. We have raised over $715 million in fundraising efforts, and we focus on 4 key areas: prostate cancer, testicular cancer, both research to find a cure for those diseases, as well as survivorship, or what we term patient navigation. So really helping men, even if they've been diagnosed and treated for either of those 2 cancers, how do they live out the rest of their lives? Because these are now men who are being treated and ultimately going into remission, that the cancer hopefully never comes back, but they're still dealing with some of the ramifications of their treatment. In the case of prostate cancer, a lot of men don't want to talk about this, but oftentimes there's incontinence issues. So imagine being a 50-year-old man not being told as you go through treatment that you might have to wear an adult diaper the rest of your life. There are erectile dysfunction issues. So imagine talking to your partner about the inability for you to have an erection and still perform for your partner. So there's a lot of conversation that needs to happen in that space, particularly as it relates to those 2 male-specific cancers. The other 2 areas we focus on is mental health. If you look back to our work in prostate cancer, you talk to the men, and it goes as dark as suicidal ideation when they find out that they can't have an erection anymore. These are men who are suffering not just physically, but mentally. And so what we've focused on out of that learning is actually moving into mental health services globally. So we have invested about $100 million of that 715 in mental health services. We've done that here in the United States as well, even in San Diego County. And then ultimately, the last piece we focus on is physical inactivity. A lot of conversation today around wearables and devices and tracking physical fitness. Imagine trying to engage men for 30 days to be physically active and the women's lives to commit to being physically active. That's one of the big challenges we have. So I'm going to play a short video to give you a sense of where we start in terms of awareness and education and where we're looking to go in terms of what we've learned in our time.
The bulk of you will end this month with something atrocious on your lip.
Brian, maybe you should be a little less mad at me and a little more mad at the guys growing mustaches for this month. Hey, don't mock Movember.
Righto, let's go over here and do a few blokes about Movember. glass of Movember bet. Now here you are. Pay that price, Mr. Williams.
Somos una pareja Movember.
John Albogetio.
But it's people like Josh who are the true heroes. Josh, how much money have you raised for Movember?
You're curling it around there. You know, it's Movember. It's our favorite month.
Movember campaign is back this year with hundreds of Hong Kong men.
You're my inspiration.
You better hope she never finds out you didn't register.
Made in Movember.
And I'm a Mo sister for Movember.
Or someone did say that I look like a 1970s porn star. I'm very happy.
It's all for a good cause.
We are Movember.
We shave down on the 1st.
Movember is a month where we grow mustaches and raise funds.
Watch your language, motherfucker!
Thank you. And I'm chewing into Rebekah's time, so I'll be quick here. So what are the three things that I would leave this audience with? First is mobile first design. We're a third sector. We're a nonprofit. We don't have capital to be investing heavily in a whole bunch of different platforms. We actually, quite frankly, grew up in social media. We were founded in 2003, Facebook started in 2004, and we fully embraced that because someone else was actually creating the platforms that we could then use as a grassroots campaign. But embrace mobile first design. We've seen in 2012, desktop usage on our site during the month of or leading up to the month was about 70%. It's now dropped to 50. All those people have moved online. And they've been largely moved to their mobile device. I'm not talking apps, I'm talking mobile web. So embrace mobile first design as you look at your programs and how you're talking to your communities. Second, quick consumable content. You saw some snippets in there. We leverage ambassadors like Sam Jackson because anytime he says the word motherfucker, it's great. We embrace our community. A lot of that stuff is community-based content. We embrace influencers. So we're actively engaging in influencers because those are the people who are actually talking in the language that's appropriate for them and authentic for the communities that we're trying to talk to. And then finally, look for partners. We work with partners across a whole spectrum, that being Harry's Razors through to Barbasol. Obviously, those are very focused on male grooming, but engaging those individuals and letting them embrace our brand and actually take it to their audience and make it their own. So that's pretty important. And then finally, agile development. So obviously for the tech folks in the room, agile development is not a new thing, but in our world, our ability to move quickly, and we're hamstrung by the fact that we don't have capital to invest in all these different technologies, let alone move quickly. We've had to embrace agile development as a way to engage across our different platforms that we then communicate out to our audiences. So even the Facebook retargeting effort that's largely started this past year to pay to play, we've had to shift pretty quickly to understand how that's influencing our community and our campaign because we have one chance a year to get it right. So we've included agile development as a way that we actually learn to fail fast and get things out to market as quick as we can. With that, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to leverage off what Jeff French spoke about yesterday. So Jeff talked about what is social marketing, and he talked about value creation as being the centre. And so this is the broader model that is contained in an article in the Journal of Social Marketing that Jeff and I co-authored. And at the heart of what I'm going to talk about today is the notion of being user-centred and about creating value for your target market. So I'm going to give you 6 design principles. One of the things about social marketing in Australia is that social marketing is done within a business school. It's not done within a health faculty. And so that means we work across a broad range of issues beyond health. And we also take the usual marketing theories and tools into our toolkit. And so the example I'm going to give you is a service design example that I worked on. So the first step with developing up a gaming app that I'm going to talk about is that it must be part of a marketing system. And we've talked a little bit about this broadly yesterday. It was certainly the theme of a major social marketing conference last year. So the considerations that you need to think about in a marketing system are, first of all, the legal regulatory environment. So what are the laws, what are the structures in place that are helping to facilitate the actions that you're wanting people to take? The next step is how do they access the tools, how do they access being able to do the behaviour? So if you're talking about an alcohol context, you might have lockout laws, you have laws about product labelling. The access and supply side of it is another way that you can help manage whether or not people are able to perform moderate drinking behaviours. And then the third aspect of the external system is the socio-cultural environment. So what are the rituals, what are the rites? In Australia, we have a lot of rites and rituals around drinking that start at 18 when you finish school and go off to your 1-week sort of holiday with the other 20,000 school leavers at a local beach. So that's the first step that we need to think about. Then we need to think about the individual on the other side of the behaviour, what they come with, their self-efficacy, their previous experiences, their thoughts, their attitudes, their beliefs. And when you combine all of that, then you're looking at a marketing system. So when you're designing digital, you can't just design digital to appeal to the individual. You also need to embed it within the broader system. So what else are you doing around the digital tool you're thinking of creating that is about the legal environment? You need to think about how people are accessing or have supply chains with the behaviour. What is the socio-cultural environment? And finally, what do you want the individual to do? Because the app can't do anything on its own. It needs to be part of a broader digital program. So what I'm actually going to do is talk to you not about a health program, because one of the things that I do in social marketing is I look at a whole range of social issues and think, what can I learn from other areas that have a similar problem to what I'm dealing with, say, in a health context? And I get lots of really good ideas for innovation from that broader range. So what I'm going to talk to you about is a program that I worked on called Reduce Your Juice, and it's all about electricity consumption. So some of you will be thinking, what's that got to do with a health area? Well, with electricity, it's an intangible, it's something that's done in private, it's done as a household. People honestly just don't care about electricity until they get the bill. Then there's this massive freak out, and then everything settles back and nobody really does anything. So it's a complete don't care factor. People are not motivated really to change their behaviour apart from a couple of financial points in the year. And there are a number of health areas that we experience the same sort of thing with. And so if you're one of those people who have, I guess, consumers who are not motivated, who know what they should be doing and don't do it, then you might be able to learn from a program like Reduce Your Juice. So this was a program where we developed some mobile games. It was part of a broader digital program that included Facebook, included SMS communication, it included websites, where if they're engaged in the program for 6 weeks playing the games, they were able to redeem rewards at the end. So we took a behavioural learning approach to this program. We didn't assume attitudes mattered. We assumed that you needed to do something first, and through the experience, you would then develop the right thoughts and feelings, and then that would become an ongoing basis. So basically, you didn't have to care to participate. So these are the 3 games that we developed. We worked out what are the 3 most modifiable behaviours that if low-income earners could modify that would make the difference to their electricity bill. And we spent a lot of time working with the electricity company to work out these 3 behaviours. So this was part of a program that the federal government funded to develop pilot projects for what could work from with low-income earners to reduce their electricity bills. So the first one was temperature defender. And these games are available for free if you want to download them on your phone or tablet. Just search for Reduce Your Juice. So you needed to defend the room, use the fans to keep away the suns, because we knew that if you kept an air conditioner at 24 degrees in summer, that would be the optimal level and would knock quite a lot of dollars off your power bill. The second one was turn off the lights and standby switches, and then the third one was washing in cold water, and this was like a tilt pivot game. I'm pretty rubbish at temperature defender and fully loaded, but I got pretty good at power raid. These games were really catchy. They were based on feedback and worked up with our end user, and they drew on a lot of the gaming principles for the really popular games at the time. Angry Birds, Dumb Ways to Die. We took learnings from all of those games and incorporated the principles in this. The apps have to do a balancing act. They have to be both entertaining and they have to facilitate the behaviour. And these are some of the words that we got back from the qualitative research about what people said, how much they enjoyed the games. And in fact, they played the game 6 times more than they needed to in terms of redeeming the reward. So it started off being about an extrinsic reward, and then the gameplay became so enjoyable that they internalised it and were just playing it because they enjoyed it. However, the bottom line is, playing a game's all very well and good, but they must facilitate offline behaviour. There's no point in everyone having a good time and then doing nothing with it. So we had a whole bunch of mechanisms to encourage people to then take the behaviour offline. We saw a lot of posts on our Facebook page about what people were doing. We had power hacks where we gave lots and lots of tips, and then our market was co-creating those power hacks with us. We also had power quests where people needed to go into the offline world and actually do the behaviour and then come back, and they got extra points for doing that behaviour. And finally, and this is picking up, I guess, on the CDC talk yesterday, apps must be evaluated appropriately. And one of the reasons that QUT was brought in to work on this project was to make sure that the evaluation had scientific rigour. We had $6.5 million on this project, and that's a significant amount of money, and the federal government wanted to make sure that the evaluation was done appropriately. We had before and after self-reported tests. We had actual energy data on a daily basis coming to us from the energy company. We had a control group. We had Facebook data that we could match to each participant household. And we also had game analytics on a real-time basis that we were able to put together and triangulate to see what exactly is going on, what are people doing, does it work, and more importantly, why does it work or not work. So we had 601 households get involved, so this was close to 3,000 people. We saved people on average $58 in a quarter. That ranged from about $30 to one lady had a $250, and I know that I played the games and I've just knocked $200 off my quarterly bill. So I am super, super happy about that. So yay, living the research. We had a whole bunch of process measures as well, so we knew how often they played the game. We knew how many points people were earning, and what was really interesting in the feedback is that people were in it not just to get the energy efficient reward at the end, they were also in it to get the games, and they wanted to be top of that leaderboard. We had 97% of people would recommend it, and in fact, we did this in 2 waves. The first wave, we thought we would go offline and recruit through government agencies, and we really struggled to get people involved, and then we turned to Facebook. We eventually got the numbers for the first wave, and then when we did the second wave, we sold out basically within 24 hours. The people who participated in the first wave, when they got their rewards arriving and being delivered, were so thrilled, they were immediately tagging all of their friends, and we just went through Brisbane like a dose of salts, and in fact, we were turning people away. So the power of digital as a recruitment strategy, I cannot tell you how important that is, but you need to do it in stages to get your brand credibility. People believed that it would work. They were receiving the goods. I think they were pretty sceptical in the beginning that they would get what they thought, what we said. When they got it and we'd proved ourselves, they were willing to be our brand advocates, and that was a really important part of an ongoing program with this. Importantly, we significantly increased habits and intentions. We improved attitudes. More people felt confident in managing their electricity. There was much higher motivation. We decreased their energy bill. We decreased the kilowatts that they'd used. We decreased their need for comfort. They were willing to trade off the comfort with the air conditioning to get the savings. We decreased negative attitudes, and we decreased their price concern. So we actually made them more interested in the social issue than what they'd been previously. So if you want more information, you can follow me on Twitter or go to reduceyourjuice.com.au, and we're about to put out the final evaluation report, so stay tuned for that.